Hello, dear viewers, and welcome again to Discovering Truth. And I am Pastor Forbes from Abiding Word Ministries, the Gateway. I'm here in the Gambia, and this is going to be part 2 of our discussion on leadership musts, MUSTS, the musts of leadership, the non-negotiable obligations that leadership must do. Last week we started in our introduction, and we basically said that in leadership it's difficult. Uneasy lies the head that wears the crown, because everybody points their finger at you, everybody throws their problems at you, everybody has expectations from you, some you can meet, some you really cannot, but that's just leadership because it's your position, it's your duty, it's your job, you took it. And we said also that one of the global leadership gurus, Mr. John Maxwell, said that everything rises and falls on leadership. So if it's rising, it's good leadership. If it's falling, it could be inattentive leadership, absent leadership, abdicated leadership, or really bad leadership. And leadership has its mix, as we discovered. Sometimes I am intrigued as a citizen and just as a global person to find out that, especially in the continent of Africa, most times when there is a change of government, especially through the ballot box, and in the past, unfortunately, through military means, the incoming government always tells us that the coffers were empty. They came and they met nothing. Sometimes it has been shown to be true. Sometimes it has been shown not to be true. But two things that strike my mind is that when that government is also leaving, when the next government comes in, they also find the coffers empty. And so you wonder why. And that has a play on leadership, because if I am brought into a situation that is totally dysfunctional, a situation that has grounded to a halt, and I'm coming in as the leader, then it means that the expectations on me are 27,000%, and somehow I must deliver. But I must not deliver recklessly, neither must I promise things I cannot do, but I must have a plan and a strategy and begin to work out programs from that plan and strategy that are felt, that are tangible, that are measurable, that are smart, if you like, time-bound, targeted, so people can see. And for me to be able to do that, one of the first things I must do as a leader is to be able to find out what is going on and know the condition of the place, know the condition of the environment, of the people, or whoever I'm dealing with. And so we are looking at a particular scripture in the Bible, the book of Proverbs. It's almost in the middle of the Bible after the Psalms, Proverbs and chapter 27, and we are reading 5 verses of 5 here. Verse 23, 24, 25, 26, and 27. And I'll just do a brief recap on them. This is what it says. Proverbs 27, verse 23, I start. Be diligent to know the state of your flocks and attend to your herd. Be diligent to know the state of your flocks. Be diligent to attend to your herds. Because riches are not forever, nor does a crown endure to all generations. You will take it down someday. Somebody else will wear it. When the hay has been removed from a field and the tender grass begins to show itself and the green herbs of the mountains are gathered in and they're given as feed for the lambs, it says the lambs will now provide your clothing. How will they do that? The lambs get fed. They become what they should be. So if you are ordering lamb chops somewhere, it's because the lambs were fed. They were fed because there was hay. There was hay because you took time to organize your field. It says the lambs will provide your clothing and the goats will provide the price of a field. By the time you've nourished your goats and you've sold them, maybe 10 or 15, you are able to buy another field. In other words, your prosperity, our progress as individual or the owner of a farm, the owner of a school, a company, a religious institution, or government for a win-win prosperity of our country means that it all starts with diligence, paying attention, knowing the state, and the condition of the nation. And we said one thing that helps with that is statistics. Another thing is media. So governments that are worth their salt have people who on a daily basis, mostly like on Monday mornings, read all the papers and try and get a gist of the feel of what is going. Some people go around the marketplaces, go around the taxi parks. In Africa, you can hear from the taxi ranks, you can hear from the market women, the markets, you can hear from the press and get a feel from the workshops. Sometimes in Gambia we have VOOs, places where young men and old men and people just sit and talk. Sometimes you can get the feel of the pulse of what is happening. However it is done, especially if it's not done immorally, however it is done, you must be able to get the pulse and feel how this nation is beating, feel how the institutions are beating, feel how your family is beating, so you can know what to inject, that it's time to put some hay so the lambs can have feed, and when you sell the lambs, you will make money and it will be prosperous. So the lambs are happy, the lambs provide clothing, they provide wool, the field is happy because green grass comes, the hay is removed, because the leader is paying attention. Now, if you delegate, you never delegate and abdicate. Delegation of responsibility and authority does not mean that when I delegate, I fold my hand. I always remember, and I have said this over and over again, many years ago, a preacher came to our church in Abiding One Ministries, came from United States, and apart from preaching in the church, I asked him to speak to the leadership of the church then. So we met in a hotel in the evening, and he spoke to us. And truly, he said many things. But there is one thing I will never forget him saying, and this is it. He said, in leadership, you do not get what you expect. Rather, you get what you inspect. You inspect. You may have great people that you can delegate responsibility to, and when you delegate, definitely you don't have to micromanage, because then there's no point in delegating, because you trust them. But you must inspect from time to time. Call them for a review. Are we sure this is what is going on? Because sometimes people you delegate to feel they heard you, but they really didn't hear you. They just heard you in their own way because they already had a pre-thought of idea of how what you are asking them to do must be done. They already have their own plan. And so you assume that they heard and understood. And that's why when we delegate, sometimes you must end the meeting by saying, okay, let's recap. What is your understanding of what I just said? That's a good practice in leadership. Can we just rehash? And so are we all on the same page? Because if we are not, it's amazing. My mentor once made a comment about a month ago, and it really made me laugh. He said sometimes after preaching, he would just meet people and chat with them, and he remembers people always tell him that, the message that you preached was such a blessing to me. And he says, which part of it? And when they explain it, he said he gets discouraged because what they're explaining is not what he said. And I can attest to that, and many people who preach can attest to that. Teachers can also attest to that. I remember the story of a Western teacher who went to a West African English-speaking country and was teaching a state-enrolled nurse class, an SAN class, and got to a point where she was teaching them on the causes of poliomyelitis, and talked about the virus and all that and all that. And when she finished, she asked them, so who can tell us what is the cause of polio? And a girl put her hand up and said, Madam, it is the witches. And she said she was shocked. After having taught everything about polio, this girl's understanding was, it's the witches of the village that caused this. Now, she may be right in her own way, but that was not the curriculum. So if she answered that in the exam, she's not going to pass, because she was taught on viruses and things like that, and maybe neuromuscular issues, but she said it was witches, domai. You understand? So in delegating in leadership, you must also inspect, because the bigger the leadership sphere, the harder it is for your two eyes to know everything. But there must be a mechanism, and not a political platitude mechanism where people tell you everything is good, everything is good. No, people need to tell you really the truth. Let me give you this example. I remember many years ago in a West African nation that the governor of a particular state, true story, the governor of a particular state was visiting the teaching hospital. And because he was coming, like as always happens, suddenly the chief medical director and the whole team, senior management team, walked around the ward and had everybody clean all the cobwebs. And when the governor appeared, all the bed sheets were clean, the patients were smiling, and the governor said, "This is not true." Because what they did was they pretend. Why would you pretend when it's bad? Because when you pretend and the governor smiles and does his rounds of 15 minutes and talks to a few people and reads a written speech for him, he has gone with the impression that you gave him that all is well in the hospital, all is well in the school, all is well economically, the macro indices. Well, what about the micro indices? What about the statistical realities of poverty and youth unemployment and teenage pregnancy? And so a particular doctor just started ripping off the sheets and said, "Sir, this place is not like this on a daily basis." And politicians love that. They like a tap on the back. But everybody knows that that is not the true state of the flocks. Last week we were looking through some statistics, and I want to continue. One of the statistics that we came across was 48.6% of this country is in a poverty headcount state. What that means is almost half of us are poor. And I don't know, I'm sure if you flesh out, they will tell you whether it's extreme poverty or which poverty, whether it means living with less than $1, which is about $47.50 budget, or maybe 48 a day. So $30 a month, that's living with less than maybe $1,300. And if you put that into perspective, I mean, statistics is statistics. So there are married men there with 2 wives, 1 wife. They're women, they're mothers. Now, if this 48.6 poverty headcount is true, and according to these statistics, extreme poverty is 20%, which means a fifth out of every 5 Gambians that you meet, extreme poverty. If you add this to, it's frightening. And if this is so, then it means in addressing it, we must think of priority projects, priority programs that would have a bolus effect in the short term and a consistent long-term effect to help our people. And I dare say that some of the projects that seem to always happen on the African continent are not the priorities. If we built a skyscraper in this country, of what use is it? How many Gambians are going to a skyscraper? What about its maintenance? What about all the other things that come with it? How many buildings do we have that have lifts? And how many of the lifts are functional? How many buildings have fire extinguishers? How many fire extinguishers are checked? So in leadership, I must consider the state. I must be diligent, ask and ask and ask beyond the surface, and go down and ask, not in a platitude form. Because, ladies and gentlemen, desperate situations call for desperate attention and measures. As I said in the introductory part, of what good it is if I own a Hummer Jeep and my wife and my children are suffering and my children are thrown away from school for school fees? Of what good is it if I can dress bling, bling, shiny, shiny, from the top of my head to my toes, shiny all over, but tomorrow we have no food. And every day we go to the market because we have no fridge. It means I must step back and look for what I can do to answer these issues. Because as we read in that scripture, the lambs are there, the goats are there. They will die. They will die if they are not fed. The wool I am looking for, the cardigan I am looking for, the woolly socks I am looking for, the price of the field that the goats can give me. Ladies and gentlemen, a fat-fed goat and an emaciated, marasmic, kwashiorkor goat will not give you the same price. So you must tend that goat. You must take time, because that goat will give you skin, that goat will give you some leather shoes, that goat will give you meat, that goat will give you milk if you take care of it. The lamb will give you wool, it will give you lamb chops, it will give you all that. But you have to take time and prepare it. There is a verse in the scripture I like a lot in the Bible. It's about Abraham. When Abraham was going to rescue his nephew Lot, or Lut as is known in Islam, it says Abraham took 300 men who were born in his house, trained in his house, and armed by him. You know what that means? They were homegrown. Sometimes it's good to outsource. Sometimes it's good to have a technical assistance. But the technical assistance cannot stay forever, because it means that the local person has not grown. The understudy has not studied. And if the understudy does not study, then the unemployment rate continues. Frustrations continue. The rest is history. So the statistics of our youth, the realities are seen in the crimes. We are fed with that on television. The people that are arrested and handcuffed sometimes are young boys, young girls, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. They're in this demographic. So if I'm going to look well to the state of the youth and consider the state of the youth, then my youth empowerment will not just be divisional and regional projects. It will be a massive drive that will bring results. Rural poverty, 69.5, 2/3. Urban poverty, 31.6, 1/3. Food insecurity, rural, 64.8. Yet there is massive farmlands. So what is wrong? Food insecurity, urban population, 47.2. That's almost 50%. Sounds like we are a hungry country. As I said, definitely, this is not statistics that happened in 12 months, 18 months, but it is not statistics that anybody to say, well, this was visited upon me. You know, people do that. Well, I came to this office, all the cars were broken down, the machines are not working, the bank account is empty. What do you want me to do? The mere fact that you are a leader, it means you must lead. You must move the people. You must have the wherewithal. You must have all that it takes: energy, wisdom, tact, skill, prayer, involvement to move the people, especially involvement. Especially involvement. There is another verse in the Bible about Jesus Christ. He says he takes his own in front and then he goes before them. That's leadership. Sometimes the leadership in terms of farming and, in terms of sheep rearing and all that, you see the shepherd at the back. He's there, he's guiding. The leader cannot be absent. The leader cannot be quiet. The leader cannot seem not to know what the vision and the drive is. I have to prepare to preach. I have to prepare to teach. I have to prepare to give leadership direction to the Abiding Word ministries. A head teacher has to do that. A board has to do that. Whatever it is, committee has to do that. And practically do it so that there's practical results. This is the recommendation of the Bible. Be diligent, be diligent, be diligent, be diligent to know the state of your flocks and the condition of the herds. Pick a lamb and find, is the lamb, this lamb looks too light. That means its body weight is less than the average or the range of a lamb. So the lamb is not being fed well. Get the vet in. If you pick that goat and that goat looks like it has a broken back foot, get the vet in. You may not be the vet yourself, but bring in the vet and find out what the vet is doing. Find out how long the vet is going to take to let this goat heal. Read the report, follow up through. That is leadership. You may have to sequester that goat. You may have to quarantine that lamb. It's for a while. After some time, you mainstream them. You may have to cross-mate them for more yield. That is all leadership. Because if you leave the goats by themselves and you leave the lambs by themselves, they will just do and stray into where the wolves and the lions are waiting for them. And ladies and gentlemen, anytime a people are not led, anarchy, chaos will happen. In the Bible, there is a book called Judges, from where we have Samson, Deborah, Gideon, and many judges. It starts by saying it was in the time when there was no leader in Israel and everybody did what seemed good in their own eyes. You do not want to think of that, because when anarchy reigns, you can see what will happen. There will be killings, there will be theft, snatch and grabs, all kinds of things going on, and that is always a sign of leadership that is not reigning in their authority and directing it in the way it should go. Look at how we all turn out, or most of us turn out as children. Every child comes the same way, whether they were born cesarean section, born premature, or born by the natural birth canal. That child will have to be helped. Have to be helped. Sometimes you dip your little finger in water and put it in their tongue. That's the much they can take. After some time, liquids. After some time, semi-solids. After some time, solids. And in all that, you are checking the biological functions that come out, because the color of the biological function tells you something about the digestion and the metabolism. And after some time, this child suddenly can see you, can reflect, and is shaking their head. After some time, they can crawl. When they begin to crawl, you discover that all the things at their level leave the sitting room and go on top. It's management, it's child training, it's upbringing. After some time, you potty train the child. When the child wants to go to the restroom, they just pick their potty and bring to you. They know that. Can you imagine at my age, I am not potty trained? What would you say? But sometimes our nations look like that. We clock golden jubilees, diamond jubilees, 60 years. We clock 40 years, 50 years. And when you look, it's almost as if we are still holding the potty in our hand. It's as if we're still being told, brush your teeth, go to bed, dress your bed, do your homework. Leadership must govern. Leadership must direct. And leadership must be all-inclusive, because the goats need to be at their top form, the lambs need to be in their top form. Even the hay must give way to fresh grass. Let me give you another scripture before we end. In the fourth gospel of the Bible, gospel according to John, in chapter 15, Jesus Christ says this: I am the vine, and you are the branches. And every branch which bears fruit, my Father prunes it so that it can bear more. But pruning is never sweet, but at least it's a sign of growth. And every branch that does not bear fruit is cut away, is cut and thrown away. Now, the owner of the vine dresser, can't just leave the vine like that. No, it has to be targeted. Those of you who have creeping plants in your home. You tie strings around the creepers and you engineer the creepers so that they creep in particular ways. You have your bougainvilleas, you have these things, they go nicely over your wall. You trim them. It's a designated, deliberate, determined, vision-oriented, directional thing. It's not left to external stimuli. You engineer it. That is why we have thermostats. You cannot live your life to a thermometer. A thermometer just goes up and comes down because of the external pressure. But the thermostat says, no, I am coming on when I want, and I'm coming off when and I'm regulating the AC and the fridge, etc., etc. We will continue from here next week as we go on, because let's take leadership as parenting. By the time that child goes into town and she can sit well, and she's courteous, and she knows how to speak, and he knows how to speak, you're always excited. Whose child is that? You say, no wonder. This child is from the Gambia. No wonder. This is from Abiding Word. No wonder. Because the leadership has formed it. That is how we should be. I'm going to stop here because there's a lot more to do, and may statistics help us as we look at them so we can look well and consider the state of our nation, so we know what to do and do the priority things that matter and not the things that are just great, grandiose, and pleasurable. Until I come your way next week, by the special grace of God, this is Pastor Forbes saying, have a good evening. God bless us all. Next week we'll do part 3. Good night.